Alright, so we're now going to look at synthetic division, and I'm actually not going to just stop at the very first factor that I do with my synthetic division. So say we're given this lovely factor here, or this lovely polynomial. We have 2x to the fourth minus x cubed minus 18x squared plus 9x, and I'm told that I need to completely factor him and then evaluate my zeros. So I can do a couple things. One of the things that I can do is I can observe, all right, there is no constant term. Well, when there's no constant term, if I plug in 0 for x, everything will go away. So 0 will be a 0 here. So I'm now going to take my observation of 0 being a 0, and I'm going to plug it into synthetic division. I know that we could have just factored out an x from all my terms, and then we would have noticed that obviously 0 is also a factor. But let's just start out using our synthetic division. When we start out setting up synthetic division, I make a little half box, and I plug in the 0 that I'm really testing here. Then I'm going to take the coefficients. We're going to take 2, negative 1, negative 18, 9, and there's really a hidden 0x to the 0th power here. So I also have to remember that there's also going to be a 0 coefficient, because you always need to have all of your coefficients. Even if there hadn't been an x cubed term here, I would also need to put a 0 there. Alright? And so synthetic goes like this. It's really mama. My mother actually taught me that. She's also a math teacher. I take my first coefficient and I pull him down, and then I multiply him in here. 2 times 0 is 0. Now I add. Negative 1 plus 0 is negative 1. I multiply. I add. I multiply. I add. I multiply. I add. And if I end up with 0 at the end, I know that I have verified that this is now a 0. Okay? I'll give you a second because I'm actually going to erase this for purpose of board space. I'm actually working out of my apartment today. So, next thing I need to do, I'm actually going to show you that I could have just simply factored out the x out of my terms, and this also would have given me my 0 first time around. So we factor out my x from all my terms, so now I have 2x third minus x squared minus 18x plus 9. And something that was magical was these coefficients, these were actually the coefficients given to me in that synthetic division. So if you want to pause me, go rewind. These were the numbers, these coefficients here were the leftover numbers from synthetic division. And I'll talk about that in the next step. The next thing I want to do, I could do a couple things. I could test my possible rational zeros, or I could look at my graphing calculator. So if you want to look at possible rational zeros, you'll find that you have possibles positive, negative for all of them. 9 halves, 3 halves, 9, 3, and 1, looking at my possible p factors and my possible q factors. So I'm going to skip ahead and know, okay, based on my possible rational zeros, one of the possibilities is a factor of 3. So I'm going to take 3 into my half box of synthetic division, take all my coefficients from my new polynomial, and I covered all my bases, and I'm going to play some synthetic division mama. Pull down the 2, we multiply in here, we do some adding, we multiply, we add, we multiply, and look at that, we get a 0. So I've just verified that 3 is also a factor. So now what my function should look like, I factored out an x. It's always in the form of x minus whatever your root is, your 0. And now my new factors are 2, we go down a power, so now we're at 2x squared. I'm going down from this power up here, plus 5x minus 3. Now this is a quadratic, so you could do just quadratic formula if you're more comfortable with it. But I'm also going to just go down another step and show you using synthetic division. So these are my new coefficients. That's created this factor right here. Let's test negative 3 as a 0. So I have a 2, I have a 5, and a negative 3 coefficients. Pull my 2 down, I multiply, I add, I multiply, And look at that. I've also verified that negative 3 is also a factor. So this might take me a second here. So when we have verified that negative 3 is a factor, it's always x minus my roots. So it's really minus negative 3. So this will become a plus. And now I have my new factor here. We go down a power from the last one, which was x squared. So now we have 2x minus 1. Now this is completely factored, and when I say to evaluate all your zeros, that just means set each of your parentheses equal to 0. And that'll show you your real zeros. So my zeros are 0 when I set x equal to 0. When I set x minus 3 equals 0, this is 3. X plus 3, when I set him equal to 0, that'll give me negative 3, which is that 0 and that 0. And 2x minus 1, I'll let you do this on your paper. If you set him equal to 0, that'll get you your 0 of 1/2. So this was synthetic division, and continuously using synthetic division to get my factors smaller and smaller. You're always using these coefficients that are created to create the next factor.